Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, we're good. We're unmuted.
Good. Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the disability meeting for July 2022. Let's go around and make our introductions to the record.
Stephanie Zimberg, representing Police Commissioner Sewell.
Allison Hirsch, representing Controller Brad Mender.
Phil Dukes, designee for Mayor Adams.
Damian Law, designee for Commissioner Nyblack.
Joe Alejandro, PBA.
Chris McGrath, PBA by invitation.
Mark Marino, PBA by invitation.
David Morris, PBA by invitation.
Nicole Jambrisi, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation of the fund.
Anthony Bradley, SBA.
Jeffrey Ward, DEA.
Nick Stefanius, counsel by invitation, representing CEA, LBA, SBA, and DEA.
Lou Checo, LBA.
Chris Monahan, DEA. Nick Massey, DEA by invitation.
Andy Vincent Miller, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation.
Bob Saskis, State Pension Fund, present by invitation. Kevin Holleran, Pension Fund, present by invitation.
Pension Fund, present by invitation.
Nicholas Leonardo, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation. Stanley Thomas, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation.
Kayla DeFay, Police Pension Fund,
Dave knows
present by invitation.
Police Pension Fund, present by invitation of the fund.
Roger Guardia Monte, present by invitation of the fund.
Angel Treasuries, invitation of the fund.
And Smith Williams, Pension Fund, President by
Pension Fund.
Kathy Zone.
You have to speak louder so they can hear you.
Kathy Zone from OMB, present by invitation.
Andy Dowling, OMB, present by invitation.
Ken Gardner from OMB.
Rich Tussie, Medical Division, present by invitation.
Okay, Joe?
Wait on the,
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, Gary?
Gary DeRosa, SBA by invitation.
Law Department?
Sarah.
Marta Ross, Law Department, present by invitation of the Mayor's Office.
You have someone else, Darren? Okay, the actuary?
I don't see Mike on here.
Okay, with that, Joe?
Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. Page 1, to accept the minutes of the previous meeting, Wednesday, June 17th. Nicole?
Respectfully, we'd ask the board to table that. There are some errors in the minutes that Sergeant Triantafilides and Andy are working with the stenography company on correcting. So would the board make a motion to table?
So I make a motion to table the minutes from the previous meeting. To confirm the next meeting date, Wednesday, August 10th. Okay. All right, very good. Article 2, pages 2 through 11.
Joe, pages 2 through 11, there's nothing of a controversial nature.
Okay, so we'd like to, so move. Thank you, Jeff. All right, next, a memorandum from Robert Senz-Castet regarding the transfer of contingent reserve funds from Police Pension Fund to the MTA Defined Benefit Pension Fund.
No, nothing of a controversial nature on that memorandum.
Okay, so we have members moving. Okay. All right. Oh, more members moving. Memorandum from Robert Senz-Castet regarding transfer of contingent reserve funds from Police Pension Fund to the New York State Police and Fire Retirement System.
Nothing of a controversial nature there, Joe.
Okay. Okay, next, a memorandum from Robert Senz-Castet regarding report regarding recovery of pension funds.
Nothing of a controversial nature, Joe.
Okay. So that's a move. Next, resolution regarding the audit committee.
Well, what we'd like to do is move OMB up.
Absolutely.
So we can allow them to get back to their office as soon as possible.
Okay, so the next is a discussion, OMB employer contribution process, proposed change. And we have members of OMB at the request of pension funds from last month. So Ken, you want to lead off or?
Sure. So I understand that you're all in receipt of the diagram that we gave, but we're passing around in case you do not have it.
I have it.
And do you want to sit at the table here? Is that better for you or? Yeah, okay.
Ken, you just have to speak louder so that they can pick you up on the mic.
Usually that's not a problem. No, I think. Thank you. So, I'm here because, I understand there's some, concern or most people want to make sure they understood what was being proposed here. So if you look at the current process, if you go to those, 4 boxes sort of in the center, right, on the current process, it's sort of a convoluted process where PPF prepares the paperwork, they then communicate with PD puts the system in the entries in the systems, and then every month they go through this rigmarole and process the payment. So the new process that we'd like to move to simply skips the 4 boxes and just has the same information, goes straight to OMB, who would set up the purchase orders and do the monthly payment vouchers on FMS, let the pension system know that we've done that, and then PPF would notify OMB that they've received the money. So that's really the basic change, and that's all we're doing. I think it's important to say this because I think there's people who are concerned that the process does not concern the process between the board and the OA with respect to the calculation of preliminary and final contributions. It only concerns the processing of SMS transactions after their calculation. The city is obligated by law to make those payments, and it's that statutory obligation that ensures the city is going to be, its fidelity to that process. The existing process doesn't do anything to further the city's requirement to make those payments. It's just a question of the amount of time and effort that goes into making the FMS transaction. The amount and of payments are not controlled by this process. They're controlled by that upstream process from OA and the board. So essentially, where we're doing this just to streamline the process. Otherwise, we're playing this game of telephone. Everyone has to make sure they're getting the messages right. It also makes more sense for if there's going to be a process where the PO and the payment are entered into the system by one entity. It makes much more sense for that PO and PO to control it. And so we wanted to, because I understood that there were some questions about this. So if there's anything else that I could explain to make it more clear, or if there's something you're concerned about in terms of the transparency of the process, that we would look at trying to address that.
So Ken, let me ask you, was this requested by Police Pension Fund?
No.
This new process? Who at OMB made a decision that this would be worthwhile for pension funds? And what and who was the liaison to try to reach out and come to this process?
So I think to some extent in conversations with the PD, this idea emerged. Just why are we going through all these processes instead of doing this directly? I think that's really how we got here. I think, and the impetus is simply to streamline this. It doesn't change the relationship. It doesn't change the city's obligation to pay. It doesn't change the amount the city's going to pay. This is really about putting FMS entries into the system. And so, that's our goal. That's why we got here. And, I think really came out of just a desire not to have sort of 4 boxes of work versus having one.
No, I understand that. You've been quite clear that you feel that this would clean things up nicely, but I'm just trying to figure out the genesis of all this. So the question was, you said that this came through some contact with the NYPD and somebody must have complained over it. But the agency here, we didn't complain. So I'm asking, who at NYPD would have complained about this?
I don't know if it was a complaint. I think we were, what happens in this process is, as we go through this sort of dance back and forth, at some point we were looking at we were verifying that the payment has been made, which is something we have to do because we were not doing it right. And from time to time, whatever, and I don't know if it's ever happened even if UPS, let's say it has, but it doesn't matter. From time to time, someone might be out and we know that the payment hasn't been processed. We just want to make sure that, it didn't fall through the cracks and blah, blah, blah. So then the question was, how does this process work, right? Like, why is this like, so we talked internally about how, with my staff, I talked to them, I said, well, how does it work now? And they more or less said to me, it works like this. I said, that's pretty crazy, that we go through all this. And, when we were talking with PD, they, I think we said, well, yeah, it seems like a lot of steps. And they were like, yeah, it seems like a lot of steps to us too. And, there's not like, they got the information from someone else and then they keyed it into FMS and then we looked at it and then we it just felt like they were sort of going through the motions without actually, taking any active steps in terms of determining the timing or amount. So why should they be involved? And so that's really what it is. It's not like somebody said, oh, this is terrible. It's just like when we were talking about the process, we realized that there were all these steps. And, it seemed like we could streamline it. So we went to fire in the first instance about 6 months ago and, talked to them, implemented this new process. So let's do one system, make sure there aren't any hiccups because, you're always concerned that somehow it's going to go haywire. And we've been running it there and we've had no problems at all. And, the idea of having one entity doing all the transactions all at once seems much more logical and true.
Well, I understand your pattern argument, but that's
it's not a pattern argument.
What you're saying, start off at fire and then you're going to apply it to all the funds.
Wait.
Let me, since I'm a member of the board and I'm asking questions. So, question here is, I understand that you're making this kind of pattern argument where you're saying you did it at fire and you think it might be applicable to all the other funds. I'm going to ask you the one question though, since we're not the ones that essentially pushed you to do this, you just came upon this on your own, said it seems to be convoluted and it seems to think that you could save time and effort, even though the parties involved didn't really ask for it, you feel that you need to ask for it. Does this add any savings? Is there a savings here in terms of money?
I mean, I don't think we're going to be able. Look, I mean, no. I think the answer to that is really no. Okay. It's going to relieve PD of some workload that they're currently doing, but clearly it's not enough work that we're going to be able to find savings from that.
Okay. Now I would also ask you another question. Last year there was a problem here. The board took a vote with regards to accepting certain monies or not accepting certain monies, and OMB decided to disregard the vote. At the time when the board took a vote and decided to, in a way, just handle the process and the payment on their own without the approval of the board. Can you explain how the thought process regarding that and how you could disregard the board vote?
Well, I think what happened, and I'm not really here to talk about this, but it's fine. I think what happened the last time was that there was this dispute between the actuary and the board and the vote, et cetera. And what not OMB, but what PD processed, right, was the amount that the law department said they should. And we're going to continue, to defer to the law department on legal matters about, because as I said, the amounts of the contribution are legally required. It's covered by statute. We defer to the law department on their interpretation of the statute. There are attorneys and they're the attorneys for the board. So,
well, I'll just say this: there was I believe, a board vote after that in order to accept the monies. I'm just saying that O&B was involved and prevented the, Stanley, I'm sorry, I forget your title is I'll say controller or CFO of the organization to go there and set up the purchase order, and O&B was just blocking him from making shut him out of the system, from actually making the purchase order. So I have a problem when there was a board vote. We didn't ask for it then. O&B was involved. Now fast forward to today, you're saying that you're going to set up everything, and I should feel comfortable with that, given the fact that there's a history where O&B got involved in the past and disregarded a board vote.
The city of New York is going to pay what's legally required to, whether we make this change or not. And the decision about what's legally required is going to be determined by the Corp Council, or right. And the only way that we're going to pay a different amount is if somebody goes to court and a judge says that the law department's judgment is incorrect. I mean, I think that it's the only position that the city entity can take, right? The city, as sort of a unitary executive, has an obligation under the statutes to pay the required amount, right? Our attorney and the board's attorney is the law department under the statutes. They're going to tell us, oh, this is what you're legally required to do. We're gonna meet our legally required obligation, and whether that's more or less than the board wants, I don't know if that's the right thing. I'm not here to judge. If law department told us no, issue whatever the board says, then we would be obliged to follow that, right? I mean, that's really what it is. O&B is not here to interpret the law. We certainly not the pension law.
Well, the pension law, many courts have ruled, gets interpreted by the pension board and how it applies to beneficiaries. And at that time, I'll say this, law department was completely wrong, because at that time, they were accepting the narrative to lower the assumption rate, which was codified in law, and actually they were incorrect. So their opinion was wrong to begin with. And I understand you want to rely on law department, and I'm not going to rehash all of that. I'm saying it was the overall that there was a board vote, and O&B blocked us from setting up a PO. I was uncomfortable then, and I'm going to say this now. I'm uncomfortable now, since this doesn't really add any value and doesn't cost money. I don't see that there was a problem from before.
So right now the PD sets up the purchase orders. Right. So the PD and O&B, it's the same thing. We're all part of the city. There's no.
Except this is not a mayoral agency.
The PD, not.
No, this is not a mayoral agency.
I understand. I'm saying that the PD sets up the purchase orders, not the PPF.
No, they go over there and they set it up. Right? They set up the purchase order through the system, and it goes to you guys, and you get notified to make the payment. I don't see where the problem is now with this. And if Stanley can quickly speak about that, that'd be perfectly good.
Yeah, so, once the board approves the actuary's memo,
Can we just pause for a second? Can you?
Mute, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Stan.
okay, so once the board approves the memo that we get from the actuary's office, PPF creates the paperwork with the approved figure. We walk over that to the police department, and we process it through the police department, but the initiation is coming from PPF. And then in June, when we do the true up, same process, we adjust the PO, and we work with PD to get
Right.
it.
Okay, I'm maybe being a little bit technical, but I mean, technically, PD puts the entries into FMS, which is all this is. I mean, your calculations, all of that, this isn't about that. It's just about who puts the transaction into FMS and the changes from PD to O&B. I'm not going to get into, look, we could, whether you think they're wrong or not, I think that the city is obligated under the statute to do what its legal counsel tells it is obligated to do. And we can't superimpose. We can't say, well, I think Joe's got a great point here, and so I'm not going to do what my lawyer tells me I'm legally obligated to do under the statute.
That's all. So the law department told you to do this?
To pay the
To
amount.
set up this system?
No, to pay the
Okay,
amount.
so
I'm sorry, I was responding to your earlier.
All right, so where's the law department involved in this? I don't get it.
I'm sorry, I was responding to your earlier question, Jeff.
All I'm saying is,
You asked me about it. I agree with you. Stick to this. No, this is not required that we do this. It's not a board issue. Remember, FMS is a city system. It's not a PPF system. It's an OMB and FISA system, right? And you know, right now the PD puts the entries in. This would switch it to OMB. There's nothing that changes the amount that's going to go in, right? Under the circumstances you talked about before, you were unhappy with what happened, but under the old system, you were unhappy with it. This wouldn't have made any difference.
Okay, can I ask a question? I appreciate you coming down and explaining to us, taking time out. So, obviously, when looking this through, if we have a comfort level of the way it's being done now, and we don't have a comfort level of maybe changing it, whatever reasons, do we have the, I guess, does the board have the right to keep it the way it is? I mean, obviously, you're presenting this to us. We appreciate it, but if we want to keep it the way it is, we're comfortable. Like Joe said, it's not something we asked for. As a board, we have the statutory right to keep it the way it is and think about this new procedure if we want to do it in the future. I mean, is that something that we have to?
That seems to be called for a legal conclusion, so I would defer to the law department.
Okay, I just got one thing, just, you know, and I appreciate you coming down too, but, you know, it's a change, and we talked earlier about transparency, and it's not transparent when the board's not informed of a change of how a process is, especially, I feel, a very important process when we talk about our beneficiary funds. So I have suspicion because of that reason. I don't see why OMB couldn't come in here and do a presentation, explain to us the reason for the change instead of just doing it. And you know, that's wow.
I think that that we see this as really a purely ministerial change. I mean, it will not affect timing or amounts of contribution. It doesn't affect the statutory obligation. So you know, I don't think that it is a substantial change.
Well, what it changes is the comfort of the board.
Yeah, that's a different issue. I can't address, you know, your comfort level. I mean, I wish that, you know, my coming here today and explaining it would make you understand sort of the ministerial, change that this is. This is about, you know, where, right, who puts the entry into FMS. It's not about, like I said, flashing time and payment. It's not about, this all happens downstream of all these areas about the calculation of required contributions. We have a role in all those other processes, but that's nothing to do with this. This is really just about execution of, you know, of this data entry function.
so can I ask one question? Kevin, this is more to you. Has the payment ever been missed, other than the one where Stanley was blocked or precluded from entering it into the system?
Not to my knowledge.
So the system works. Essentially, right? So that's the problem we're having here. It's a system that works. It's a system that has had no problem except for one time, and OMB was involved with that. It's a system that no one here felt needed to be improved and didn't ask for this. And now we're being asked to accept this on face value, that this is good for us, when no payment has been missed. There's never been a problem, and I think that's an issue. So I will also bring up one more thing, and I'll give this to the controller. There's a question I have in your in Directive 1, where it talks about on page 11 your segregation of duties. Key duties and responsibilities need to be divided or segregated among. Now it's talking about staff, but I would also expect that it also involves interagencies or whatever. This should include separating responsibilities for authorizing transactions, processing and recording them. I'll highlight that. We have a system within here, an auditing system, budgeting, everything else, and the payment is made. You guys at the end send the check. I think there's a separation of responsibility and authority, and I think it should remain that way. To give you all responsibility of handling all the payment and then sending it to us when no payment has ever been missed from before. I don't think it's a valid argument at the table. We can consider it. I think it's something to look at, but I think we need to review it and whether it's important to make a change. And right now, I don't see the importance of making the change. And I believe also speaking to trustees on other systems, they don't see the necessity for change right now. So I'm uncomfortable with this, trying to address this. And I don't like the artificial deadline of July being sent to this board as though, you're going to do it or else kind of routine. I don't like that. That's the way it is in the email that you will be implementing this in July. And I also I'm going to wait to speak to trustees and fire who have conveyed to me their discomfort with this, even though it was implemented. Some believe they weren't even advised about this at the board. So I'm just saying right now, I have a discomfort with this. And, if we're going to really need to look at this, then I need to ask for a vote of the board, because this board is mandated to run things through 7/12 and not just accept things, even on ministerial things, because we delegate authority to the executive director to handle ministerial necessities. Excuse me. So I think the problem I have now is you could put it to a board vote now and see where you get with that, or wait until everybody's comfortable looking at all the boards and deciding whether all the boards are comfortable, since you want to do this in an omnibus fashion amongst all the boards.
So I don't want to give the impression that the tone of the memo. I think we really do see this as not rising to this level in any way. But, obviously, the board has to do what the board has to do. The reason we did, we handled the communication and everything that way, because we see this as really something about, how we're going to do the estimate. It's not, it's not the kind of issue. It's not a policy issue. It's ultimately not going to change the amount, the timing of payment. This is just about who's pressing the key. In terms of what the board wants to do, the board has to do what it wants to do, as you frequently point out. So I'm not a man. So anyway, if there are any more questions about the process, thank you for allowing me to come here and take the time to explain it to you all. And as Chris pointed out, my compatriot from the CEA, maybe after a little while we'll look at it, we'll review it. Maybe we think this might be something that everybody's comfortable with, but I would advise OMB in a friendly fashion not to push this right now. Let everybody look at it, digest it, and not push for a July deadline to do this. I think it just adds to the thinking that maybe this is not necessarily in their best interest at this point, but after review, it might be. I'm sorry, Allison, do you want to say something?
No, just that if we're going to rely on anything Directive 1 says, I need more time. Because
Yeah.
shockingly, I have not read Directive 1.
And we'll look at that too. Okay?
all right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you.
Yeah. Take care.
Okay, buddy.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
It's a little long time.
Okay. I think we're table. That's a table for now.
Okay.
We don't need to do a board vote right now, but it may come up. We don't need to take votes on table. Just let me pull up my. Okay. So we handled OMB. table. Okay, next, the resolution regarding the audit committee.
Good morning, everyone. As we discussed in the last month's board meeting, the topic got tabled. We had shared the resolution to create the audit committee for the entire board. Where we left off last month was to decide the members of which trustees should be part of the committee. I think it was discussed that the comptroller's office, the commissioner by statute has to be on all committees, the mayor's office, one representative of the PBA, and one representative from one of the other unions. We just wanted to, I think we tabled it last month. Just wanted to see how the board feels about creating the audit committee this month. If you guys have any questions about the resolution, or any concerns?
Do you have problems inputting things in systems or anything like that?
I think it's.
Not yet.
Not yet? Only if precluded by OMB, right? No? Do you need a,
So the resolution is on page 25
See it.
and 26 of the record. Is there a motion?
so I make a motion to accept the resolution. By the way, who's gonna be on this? Sure, you need, or it's gonna be a vote of the board to set up
So
the committee.
it says TBD, so I think you guys have to decide who's gonna be on the committee, and then we can type that in if you wanna pass it with the amendment.
So why don't we do that? And then we can have a discussion as to who will be on the audit committee. So,
Well, I think you need to
Yeah.
have that discussion here, and then if you tell us who you want to be on the committee, we can just type it in the reso.
okay, so, it would be, how many are we looking to put on the committee?
Stanley just, you want to repeat what you said about who should be on it? Or who we had discussed with you?
Sure. So by statute, the commissioner has to be on the committee, so it would be the commissioner, the comptroller's office. Last month, there was a discussion about whether or not the mayor wants to be on it. But you can still include the mayor in there, one representative of the PBA and one representative of the other union.
So,
So, you know, I think it's really whether or not the mayor would want to be on the committee and which union would want to take the other slot from the
so PBA, anybody else? Look at Chris, like, not me, it's gonna be Turco.
Everybody see your finger in your nose.
Come on, flip a coin, I don't care, wrestle. Yeah.
All right, I'll do it.
There you go. Like the proxy committee, there you go. All right, so we've got our committee.
So I have the PBA, the CEA, the
Mayor's office.
PC, and the comptroller, mayor as well. Okay.
So there's your audit committee.
Thank you.
So,
I want to audit that vote right now.
So can we make a motion to pass the resolution with the addition of the PBA, CEA, PC, comptroller, and mayor as on the committee?
So I'll make a motion that we accept the resolution regarding establishment of an audit committee with the members of being the police commissioner's representative, controller's representative, the mayor's representative, the CEA president, and a member of the PBA vice president.
Is there a second?
Second?
So second. There you go, Chris, second.
Okay.
All right, so we have that in. Okay.
Good job, Johnny.
Don't worry, as the days wane, Turco's gonna reach out to you and say, Chris, you're on that audit committee, huh?
I got a lot of questions.
Yeah. All right, finally, a discussion regarding BAM corpus funding fiscal year 2022, and third quarter billing. Stanley?
So just like normal process, we got the invoice from the comptroller's office. PPF did their internal review and found no material issues with it. So we're comfortable to recommend to the board for to pass that corpus fund.
Okay, so then I make a motion to accept the bill from the controller's office for third quarter 2022.
Second? DEA. Okay, so moved.
So move, and I believe, There's some other items
No, that's the public.
you want to bring up.
Oh, what do we have?
Also, I make a motion to leave, the public and go into executive.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All right, so
Okay.